All right, Tucker, thanks as always. Welcome to Hannity, and this is a Fox News alert. Polls are closed across the great state of Mississippi. We are currently monitoring the results out of what will be the last Senate seat to be decided. We hope to make that call during this hour. We hope you stay tuned. But first, big news as it relates to the Mueller witch hunt. Coming up tonight, we're going to show you how two individuals are literally standing up to Mueller's coercion and what we call test-a-lie tactics, and we'll expose a fake story accusing Paul Manafort of having secret meetings with Julian Assange. Nothing more than a conspiracy theory and literally peak Russia collusion hysteria at its worst. The reporting has been atrocious. And also tonight we have an important update on an actual scandal surrounding this sketchy Clinton Foundation. Now, we're going to bring you the very latest from the crisis at our southern border tonight. We will expose some of the almost unbelievable hypocrisy from America's left and your mainstream media. Senator Lindsey Graham is here to weigh in on that. Also, the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Nielsen, she will join us tonight. Sit tight, buckle up. Glad you're with us. Time we begin our breaking news opening monologue. All right, tonight it appears another so-called Russian bombshell has fallen completely flat. The Guardian today reported without any evidence, vague sourcing, that former Trump campaign manager Paul Manafort and WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange met multiple times between 2013 and 2016 at the Ecuadorian embassy in London. Well, tonight, Paul Manafort is strongly denying all of that, firing back in a powerful statement. It reads, quote, "This story is totally false, deliberately libelous. I have never met Julian Assange or anyone connected to him. I've never been contacted by anyone connected to WikiLeaks, either directly or indirectly. I have never reached out to Assange or WikiLeaks on any matter." Now, Manafort is also vowing to pursue all legal options against that paper. And WikiLeaks, by the way, they're even going further tonight. They tweeted, quote, "Willing to bet the Guardian $1 million and its editor's head that Manafort never met Assange. Assange, too, rightly so, moving ahead on possible legal action." In addition to being absolutely rebuffed by both parties involved, what's fascinating is the Guardian's story filled with serious flaws. And, by the way, no evidence of any meetings, vaguely described sources, and none on the record. Remember, the Ecuadorian embassy in London, it is one of the most surveilled and secured buildings in the world. I know. I went there. I interviewed Julian Assange in January of 2017. Visitors are monitored. They are photographed, videotaped by multiple governments. And now the Guardian is even being accused of quietly stealth editing the story. Now, the paper actually altered their own headline, adding words, "sources say." They didn't have that in the beginning. And then they softened key elements in the language just hours after receiving all the backlash. And while the fake news media jumps on anything, everything Russia, except Hillary's phony dossier, regardless of any actual evidence, President Trump's not backing down. And today he had sharp words for Robert Mueller. He tweeted, quote, "The phony witch hunt continues, but Mueller and his gang of angry Democrats are only looking at one side, not the other. Wait until it comes out how horribly and viciously they are treating people, ruining lives for them refusing to lie. Mueller is a conflicted prosecutor gone rogue." And then Trump continued, quote, "And the fake news media builds Bob Mueller up as a saint when in actuality, he is the exact opposite. He's doing tremendous damage to our criminal justice system where he is only looking at one side, not the other. Heroes will come of this, and it won't be Mueller and his terrible gang of angry Democrats. Look at their past. Look where they come from. And look at this, $30 million. The witch hunt continues. They've got nothing but ruined lives. Where is the server?" Meaning Hillary's server. "Let these terrible people go back to the Clinton Foundation and the Justice Department." Still, President Trump is letting the process play out. He told the Washington Post tonight he has no intention of stopping the investigation. But the president's concerns are being echoed by legal scholars like Alan Dershowitz, who warned today that about what Mueller's true motives really are. Let's take a look.
Mueller is not going to produce a neutral report. He's not going to be fair. He's going to produce what he believes is going to be a devastating attack. He's going to put together everything. He's going to use information from Manafort and others without necessarily disclosing that they're liars. And so the president's team has to be ready.
This is exactly what I have been saying on this program from the get-go. Our own Greg Jarrett has explained what we're witnessing now is the classic Mueller, Andrew Weissman pitbull tactics using threats, coercion to get people to what we call test a lie. In other words, tell us what we want to hear, and guess what? We're going to go easy on you. And by the way, if you don't tell us what we want to hear, well, you might spend the rest of your life in jail. But look what's happening. This is fascinating. Paul Manafort and Jerome Corsi, they're now taking a stand. They're refusing to cooperate and go along with the test a lie scheme. They're not willing to tell a story that they want told. Even both of them, elderly men, risking life in prison. Now, they could say exactly what these rogue prosecutors want to save themselves, but clearly their conscience refuses to allow them to lie. CNN reporting that Robert Mueller has his hands on 2016 email communications between Corsi and Roger Stone, supposedly showing some attempt from Stone to seek information from WikiLeaks. We'll see how this plays out as Mueller continues to turn the screws on both Corsi and Stone. One thing, as I have read it, it doesn't show that they knew anything was stolen in any way by anybody. Anyone ever hear of the Pentagon Papers? Just a thought. Remember, it is now day 559 of Mueller's Destroy Trump witch hunt. Zero evidence, zero of Trump-Russia collusion. We got, lying to the FBI, lying to prosecutors, lying on loan applications, didn't pay your taxes. Where's the collusion? Why not go after Hillary? What we're seeing here is a two-tier justice system. Hillary Clinton paid for phony Russian lies that were fed to you, the American people, to influence the 2016 election, and no legal consequences. President Trump, everyone associated with him, they turned the screws ever so tight. Mueller and his merry band of partisan investigators with a horrific track record. It's a travesty of justice. It is the biggest abuse of power corruption scandal we've had. Never mind Hillary Clinton from the get-go got exonerated. No real investigation. They were writing her exoneration in May. They didn't interview her and 17 other people till July. She committed obvious and clear felonies, including obstruction, when she deleted and she acid washed and then busted up devices. But America's left and their friends in the mainstream media, they can't get enough. But they never talk about the dual justice system, the Hillary system, and then the system for the rest of us. Completely obsessed with a phony Trump-Russia collusion conspiracy theory. And meanwhile, the Destroy Trump press is all but ignoring the major scandal surrounding what might be the world's sketchiest so-called charity, the Clinton Foundation, back in the news. Federal investigation is now currently underway into Bill and Hillary's prized so-called nonprofit organization. FBI agents are seeking to determine whether or not the Clintons employed an illicit pay-to-play scheme for years. Remember, during Hillary's tenure as then Senator, then Secretary of State, and during her 2 runs for the presidency, that foundation raked in tens and tens of millions of dollars, many of the largest donations coming from foreign governments. We're talking about millions of dollars from Australia, Norway, the Netherlands, Ireland. And remember, Hillary Clinton's, claim to be the champion of women during the 2016 campaign. Her foundation took in tens and tens of millions of dollars from countries with the most despicable, disgusting, horrific human rights track records. Middle Eastern countries practicing Sharia, treating women like second, third-class citizens, and worse. And the Clinton Foundation taking between $10 and $25 million from Saudi Arabia, forbids women from traveling without a male guardian's permission, persecutes Christians and Jews, and literally gives the death penalty to gays and lesbians. What did they do? They took millions from these countries, and they bought the Clintons' silence. And they took more from Kuwait and Qatar and Brunei and Oman and UAE, Algeria. They bought her silence. She never criticized those atrocious human rights records like we have regularly on this show. And in 2016 alone, the foundation took in a whopping, get this, so the year she's running, $62 million. In 2017, after Clinton's devastating loss to Donald Trump, her foundation only received $26 million in donations. Well, that's a huge, massive drop, and that's because after it became clear that Hillary Clinton would never be president. So what were all those big donors hoping to gain from their enormous deposits into the Clinton Foundation? Looks to me like that's called access, pay to play, paid access at the highest levels of our federal government. Imagine for a second Donald Trump ever did this. You know, you're buying access that no other law-abiding citizen would ever dream of. Do you think they'd get invitations to the White House? You think they'd get access to the president if she had won? Access to the Senate seat when she had that, the State Department when she was Secretary of State? And if everything went according to plan, access to the Oval Office. Of course, everything didn't go according to plan, and Hillary Clinton lost because we, the people, well, Donald Trump became president in spite of all of the deep state's efforts to prevent that from happening. Now they're delegitimizing, and frankly, we will see in the next 2 years nothing but an all-out effort assault to destroy the presidency of Donald Trump. And now we have the opportunity to uncover what looks like a completely corrupt pay-to-play scheme that should have no place in this constitutional republic of ours. And the mainstream media, they choose to ignore this developing scandal. Of course, they're all things Democrat. They're an extension of the Democratic Party. They're too busy covering Stormy, hole, etc. They don't want to cover the crisis at the southern border, at least not in a fair way, an honest way. Now that thousands of migrants have arrived south of San Diego, the biased press can no longer ignore this serious situation or pretend that it's some grand conspiracy theory cooked up by the GOP to get votes in the midterms. Instead, the media's echo chamber is now spinning out of control over the use of non-lethal tear gas. Why? To disperse a massive group of migrants that attempted to break all of our laws, rush the border, and many assaulting our own Border Patrol with rocks and bottles and other projectiles. And we have it on tape. Take a look.
Bad things breaking out at the San Ysidro port of entry near Tijuana. The president falsely described the caravan as an invasion. Now he seems intent on trying to make it as ugly as he imagined it.
Is there any defense for using tear gas on children?
Well, I think what Americans really should be, especially Trump supporters, people who, don't quite see the inhumanity that's going on here, who maybe think that 3-year-olds need tear gas.
There has got to be a pragmatic and compassionate answer here that does not involve tear gassing children.
Here we look at children being subjected to tear gas. That's the United States causing that. That's outrageous.
He wants that chaos on the border as he continues to treat these people, who so many of whom are leaving violent lives in Central America, like terrorists. There's some bad people. Yeah, like the bad 4-year-old that got tear gassed the other day.
And as you can see, your mainstream media doing anything, everything to vilify President Trump and his administration over the crisis at our southern border. However, as per usual, they have completely failed to tell the whole truth. Look at this study tonight from Newsbusters. Last night, networks totally ignored the use of tear gas during the Obama administration. Do you remember this kind of hysteria? A report from the Washington Times shows that, tear gas was used about once a month during Barack Obama's time in office in order to repel migrants at the border. Once a month. Think about that. Now, isn't that all you need to really know about the bias of the media in this country? There was no monthly outrage over the actions of the Obama administration, no grandstanding, no dramatic pleas for civility, no talk about women and children. This shows without any shadow of a doubt the destroy Trump press, and that's who they are willing to do and say anything, everything to damage the administration. This has been 2 years and ongoing. Many on the left try to paint the Trump administration as monsters. The statistics, the truth, history tells a much different story. In fact, 100,000 asylum claims were processed last year under the Trump administration. By the way, that happens to be a record-setting amount. That's up 6,000 from Obama's final year in office. And under the Trump immigration applications into the United States, they have surged, probably because of the better economy. Unfortunately, this causes serious backlogs, and we now are currently at 786,000 pending immigration cases. Now, keep in mind, the U.S. has received 160,000 asylum cases this year compared to just 42,000 in 2008. Good economy again. As of September, there were 42,000 likely illegal immigrants held in ICE detention facilities, despite only enough funding and capacity for 40,000 people. And the president has requested more funding for ICE. But as we know, and as we can see, America's immigration resources are stretched extremely thin. They are operating at maximum capacity. And this makes the situation at our southern border even more serious and more dangerous for those people that put their lives on the line to protect our country, our sovereignty, our borders, our rule of law. None of this seems to matter to the left. The president's working hard to improve the lives of the American people and our immigration system, strengthen our borders, ask people to respect our laws, and the left is working overtime to destroy the reputation of the Trump administration. No conspiracy theory is too absurd for them. No lie too egregious. No rhetoric too disgusting. And when Democrats take control of the House in a few short weeks, I digress here a second. When they do, oh, we have great things planned. It's only going to get worse. Mark my words. 2 years, never-ending, nonstop attacks, nonstop investigation. What are they going to do for you, we, the people, to improve the economy, to improve our security, to bring us to energy independence? Probably nothing. Here now with more on the serious ongoing situation at the southern border, South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham. You know what was amazing is you watch, first you see the statistics in the Obama years and all the times they used tear gas. Do you remember any reports, any hysteria from the media about that?
Well, number one, no. And how long does it take you to figure this out? When it comes to Obama, when he uses tear gas, he's protecting the country. The narrative is that Trump is a cruel, heartless bastard. Only works if he uses tear gas on kids. And it undercuts the argument if the Obama administration used tear gas to protect our border from being overrun. The question for the country is, what do you say to the people who shot the canisters? I stand behind the men and women on the border, standing between us and people who want to cross illegally. When you're slamming the tear gas, you're slamming the people we put on the border to protect us, and that's what disgusts me the most.
What are they supposed to do?
Yeah,
when
what are they
rocks
supposed
and
to
bottles
do?
are being pelted at them? Or what are we supposed to do when they're breaking down barriers and want to rush the border? This is what we were warning about before the election,
yes.
And it's now coming to pass, and there are thousands more still coming.
Well, I've been a lawyer in the military most of my adult life. You use the least amount of force possible to protect you and secure the mission, and the mission is to protect the border from being overrun. So tear gas keeps the people apart. You don't get in a fight. That's a good thing. The bottom line is Donald Trump was right to call the caravan out weeks ago. He's right to make sure it never crosses the border. People throughout the world are watching the president. If he blinks here, his credibility on securing the border is dead. He's not going to blink. And to my Democratic friends, how do you expect the public to work with us to fix a broken immigration system if you support one wave after another? A lot's at stake here. The president's not going to bend. He's not going to back down. And I hope the Republicans in Congress will stand behind it.
So President Obama tear gasses people on a monthly basis. We now have literally, and we'll talk to Kirstjen Nielsen, the Secretary of Homeland Security, we have identified, Mexico too has identified at least 500, maybe 600 criminals coming across that border that have integrated themselves into the migrant population. And that means, when I sat through a briefing with Rick Perry in Texas when he was governor, a security briefing that Obama should have been at. When I sat through it, they had 7-year period of time, 642,000 crimes committed against Texas. Some minor, many serious, including murder. I've interviewed angel moms and dads more than I ever wanted to in my whole life. Lost their lives to illegal immigrants that we even had in our justice system and never deported. At what point does the government bear the responsibility that they didn't do their job and enforce the law? What culpability do they have?
Well, I think we have a lot of culpability as a nation from ignoring this problem. You know, doing the same old thing and expecting a different outcome is insanity. President Trump is going to stop the caravan The next one's coming, won't come if this one is stopped. He'll shut down the border if he has to. Democrats should give him the money he needs to secure the border. If they deny him the funding to secure our border, President Trump is going to push back and fight back. And this is a day of reckoning for the American people. What message do you want to send to the rest of the world about our border? If you want to be open borders, this is your chance. If you want to stand firm, this is also your opportunity. And I hope Democrats understand you got to really hate Trump to not see this caravan's a problem for the American people.
Let me ask you the last question about Mueller. The president said he's not going to stop this. Never had any plans. He said it numerous times now. At this point, how do we justify as a nation that believes in we're a constitutional republic, we agree in equal application of our laws, equal justice under the law, and Hillary paid for phony Russian lies to influence the American people. That was used as a fraud on the FISA court, would never verify or corroborate it. Hillary never identified as having paid for it. And then it goes further. Then it's used as part of a leak strategy. The bulk of information, according to yours and Charles Grassley's memo, used to obtain the FISA warrants. Why has Mueller, if he cares about Russian interference, she paid for it? Why is that not an issue?
Well, you can't blame Mueller because it's not his charter to look at that. I do blame the Department of Justice.
Why is it not? If he's looking for Russia collusion, why is that not within his mandate when somebody's loan application is within his mandate?
Well, it might be, but I blame the Department of Justice for not appointing a special counsel to look at the FISA warrant. They really got away with a lot here, and if I'm chairman of the committee next year, we're going to look at the FISA warrant problem. I promise you we will.
You're going to get to the bottom of that? Could we get to the bottom of Hillary's emails and destruction of emails?
We need a special counsel to look at all this. Why was the FBI in the tank for Clinton? Did they have a political bias? This screams for a special counsel. That's why Trump was so upset with the Sessions Department of Justice.
Lindsey Graham, Senator, thank you for being with us. When we come back, we will go live to Mississippi. We're waiting on the results. This correspondent, our friend Peter Doocy, is there on the ground. I'm getting some anecdotal reports about turnout in more Republican areas versus Democratic areas. And what I've heard, and I hope you can confirm, Democratic strongholds didn't maybe have the bounce that would be needed to win in Mississippi.
From what I saw a minute ago, it doesn't sound like enough of certain counties are in yet to know for sure. So that is the case in some places, maybe not in others. But it was interesting, Sean, this morning we drove from Gulfport here to Jackson. It's a couple hours. And just about everywhere that we went on the side of the road, there were these big flashing billboards that said vote again. And now we do know generally how many people got the message to go and cast a ballot for the second time in 3 weeks. It was 30 to 40% of registered voters here in Mississippi, according to state officials, who are saying that it started out slow and steady, but it really picked up towards the end of the day. Right now, not far from here, the Democrat Mike Espy is having his election night event at the Mississippi Civil Rights Museum. We understand that he is on site watching returns that could make him the first African-American senator elected in Mississippi since Reconstruction. Cindy Hyde-Smith, meanwhile, trying to make history of her own as the first ever woman elected to the Senate from Mississippi, and she's waiting to see if voters who said that they were offended by a joke that she made about a public hanging voted in larger numbers than people who took it as a joke. Her supporters did something at the last minute, too. They tried to shine a light on a Clinton-era indictment against Mike Espy, and last night, some of the people introducing the president and Cindy Hyde-Smith came to the stage to say that he had to leave, Espy had to leave as Clinton's agriculture secretary because they said he was too corrupt for the Clintons. We'll see which argument was stronger shortly. Sean.
All right, Peter, listen, please tell me, when you talk to your dad next, will you please ask him why I was dumped on page 184 of his latest book? I was dumped at the very end as an afterthought.
I call him, I text him. Yeah. I think you're with the entrees. It goes in order of a meal.
Yeah, he only asked, he didn't ask me for an entree. He asked me for, whatever. I wasn't the appetizer. Peter, we're going to check in back with you, monitoring all the results out of Mississippi. We'll bring you any numbers as they come in. They're notoriously slow. unfortunately, we're hoping they come in soon. First, earlier tonight, Jerome Corsi sat down with our own Tucker Carlson. He was discussing his experience dealing with Team Mueller. Let's take a look.
Everything they wanted, I had nothing to hide. I gave them to them immediately. And for having forgotten on day one, because I hadn't reviewed the emails, this particular email about Ted Malloch, I'm now being charged with willfully and knowingly giving false information, which is nonsense.
Do you think that your political views are playing a role in the decision of the special counsel to charge you with a felony?
Yes, I think. And also, by the way, they accused me of deleting emails, and I told them to restore. They restored the emails that I supposedly deleted through the time machine. This is a political witch hunt.
Here with reaction, former U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, Joe DeGenova, and America Fighting Back Chairman Herman Cain. Joe, let's go. This is pretty profound. We call it test the lying. And what usually happens is you sit down and they say, listen, if you don't want to spend 10 years in jail, rest of your life in jail, we need information. So they make a deal. And usually, sadly, often is the case, Joe, and tell me if I'm wrong, they're basically telling you what they want to hear. And Paul Manafort and Jerome Corsi, from my observation, are refusing to tell them what they want to hear, even though they would benefit probably dramatically and may both face life in prison. But they're refusing to capitulate. Is that accurate? Is that probably accurate?
Yes, I think it is. And I think we can tell right now from the manner in which the Mueller investigation has failed, utterly failed, to produce any evidence of collusion between the Russian government and the Trump campaign or President Trump himself. And so now what they are doing is they're in spasms of vindictive prosecution, unethical prosecution, just to get somebody, to get something, to get close to the president. It is outrageous. I hope that the next Attorney General, the permanent Attorney General, who I hope the president will nominate soon, will take control of this. And one of his first things he should do, the new Attorney General after sworn in, is have a meeting with Mr. Mueller, find out what's going on, where he's going, and when he's going to end. That is a duty that the next Attorney General has, because this investigation by Mueller is unconstitutional. It is founded on no crime. It was created by Rod Rosenstein because he's a gutless, duplicitous failure of a deputy attorney general. He should be ashamed of himself, and the new attorney general should fire Rosenstein ASAP.
You know, Herman, people ask, well, why do you bring up Clinton? Because, number one, these very same people that have attacked this president, you know, Peter Strzok, Page, Comey, they all set this up. And the reason is they allowed Hillary to get away with what were known crimes and obstruction and a violation of the Espionage Act. No, it's not. It's now incontrovertible. And that's the point. And then she paid for the phony Russian dossier that even Steele never stood by when under oath in an interrogatory in Great Britain. And yet FISA courts were lied to, information withheld, nothing was verified, and then Russian lies fed to the American people, paid for by her. How does that get ignored? And we have no evidence here, ever, of any Trump-Russia collusion.
It gets ignored because of hypocrisy on steroids. Jerome Corsi is one of the most honest, honorable individuals on the planet. No one can remember every word, every nuance of everything that they may have said over the last 10 years. No human being on earth. But when they get an opportunity to dig through dozens and dozens and thousands of pages of comments, they will pick out one thing that they want to use to run up the flagpole in order to try to make a case out of it. This is nothing but a witch hunt, looking for a witch, and they haven't found a witch in nearly 2 years, Sean. That's all it is.
I just believe, Joe, if Jerome Corsi wanted to make it easy on himself, Paul Manafort wanted a lesser sentence. All they had to do is say what was wanted. And by the way, we have Mueller and his pit bull, Weissman. They'll have a history of this.
Well, here's the deal. You're absolutely right. Both of these men could give Mueller the lies that he wants if they wanted to make life easy for themselves. But you bring up Weissman. Let's remember Andrew Weissman has a reputation for being one of the most unethical prosecutors in the country. He's been rebuked many times. Here's the thing. Remember Andrew Weissman showed up at Hillary Clinton's victory party on election night. He sent Sally Yates an email saying, bravo for violating an order of the President of the United States when she refused to